Hello, everybody, and welcome to the music rating, ranking, and reviewing podcast that we like to call Music Meltdown, in which we rate, rank, and review any artist's discography, songs, musical topics, really whatever comes to mind. This episode is going to be a new series I'll be airing throughout the latter half of this year into next year, more than likely. It is the Titular Album of the Year series that I have stolen from two channels now. So that's pretty fun. Essentially, we're going to be going from the year 1963 to current year, probably next year, later on, and just giving our overall perceptions upon the year, our top fives, and sort of rough misses, just our general opinions on the year as a whole. I will say, starting out with a decade I've slightly alluded to my thoughts on in the past, but it is what it is. Starting out the 60s, and the game plan is I'm going to have a revolving door of guests throughout each decade. Starting with the 60s, I have above me Andrew from the Cars, as well as the old Album of the Year video that I did. So funny how that works out. That being said, 1963 is where we're starting. Bit of an odd year to do this because it's essentially jazz and the birth of kind of pop and rock records as a whole. That being said, this was an interesting dive to get to. I did like a small dive into this. I ended up with 4 records at 4 stars, one at 4.5. I have my stats for like what my scores are. I'll probably throw those out there. And I'd say that this was an interesting year. There's some really good stuff in it, but you kind of do have to dig, and it's not so on the surface, I would say. Some albums made in here that I didn't expect them to. So, Andrew, your perceptions on 1963.
Yeah, so it feels a little bit before like the definitive album era we think of in music, but I guess that makes it almost in a more interesting list in a way because there's so many wild cards as to what you might find and what you might think kind of emerges to the top. So we'll have, I think, pretty much every year I like more to come, but you know, what I like here, I really like still.
I'd say every year in this decade, except 1968, you're probably going to like more than me. I think that's the one that I might leave you. Past that, though, we'll see how it goes. That being said, you want to kick off with your top 5 and just misses?
Sure. Yeah, so I guess I'll just mention my 6th spot here was He's a Rebel by the Crystals. So that's the runner-up. Great girl group record. But my top 5 proper, starting out number 5, Please Please Me, the Beatles. My preferred record this year from them, actually. Pretty much on the strength of being loaded up on the hit singles, in addition to some fun album cuts. Lots of great songs here. I saw her Standing There, the title track, Love Me Do, Twist and Shout, Do You Want to Know Secret Misery. Really credible debut. And yet I still have 4 above it. So yeah, number 4 is Surf Rider by the Lively Ones. And surf rock was really in abundance in this year. And in doing a deep dive, this one emerged as my favorite of those. The title track is a highlight and probably the most well-known and of anything there. But I was struck by how enjoyable this one was throughout. It's got this strong vibe, some meat to it, but they don't really overstay their welcome with the songs either. They do a nice job on the covers that were done seemingly countless times by lots of acts. Number 3 is A Christmas Gift for You from Phil's Records or Phil Spector, depending on which label you're looking at there. So this is a various artist release, but not a compilation really. It's just like a bunch of artists under that Phil Spector tutelage working together, and it's a holiday record. And that brill building sound here works so perfectly with these standards, I think. Some of the best versions around of most of those. Sleigh Ride is excellent, and Christmas, Baby Please Come Home is pretty much an all-timer. Number 2, I have In Dreams by Roy Orbison. I knew a couple songs of this one going into it. In Dreams, the song, is a serious contender for Song of the Year for me. And he was one of the best of this early 60s era that we're kind of just starting to leave away from. And as far as I'm concerned, this track by track, you get this lush, classy Baroque pop that I love. He has the distinct vocal, that unmistakable. So yeah, really great record. But number one, we'll go to The Freewheeling Bob Dylan by Bob Dylan. And this one really stands out for feeling like a true album. It's the folky singer-songwriter through and through and at the highest level. It's all good, but what puts it over the top, I think, is the handful of top-tier tracks. And like he's an artist that's pretty much just beginning his journey, but it's almost fully formed here, at least this kind of acoustic sound that he's going for. I probably don't even need to say which ones, but special shout out to my personal favorite, which is probably Don't Think Twice, It's All Right. So he takes the crown for 1963 for me.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I haven't heard the Crystals or the surf rock one. That just wasn't really on my radar for this year. And that Beatles record, I struggle with early Beatles. I know some people really love that stuff, but for me, it's just you got all these songs, but you got like 5 great ones, and then the rest are just kind of cookie cutter in the style for me. I mean, hey, solid list. We'll see a couple of those on mine. But
Nice.
number 6, just missing for me, was That Stubborn Kind of Fellow by Marvin Gaye. And the top 5 here, it was really a debate with number 5 about which of the 2 Sam Cooke records would make it. I ended up going with, actually, no, I ended up going with none of them because there was a surprise record that sort of caught me off guard, a country record that made it into my list, being Nightlife by Ray Price. I thought this was just an incredibly fun, really just joyful record, very much early sort of Baroque string laden country with a bit of that honky tonk sound. Really enjoyable listen, in my opinion. Then I have a duology of pretty big jazz records from this year that ended up making it, being The Black Saint and Sinner Priest by Charles Mingus and Ballads by John Coltrane. Both just really excellent jazz releases that you can just lose yourself in the sound of and are just truly excellent. And my top 2 records are the same as you. Number 2, In Dreams by Roy Orbison, and number 1, The Free Will and Bob Dylan. Yeah, I pretty much agree to everything that you said on those 2. I think that In Dreams is a really lush, really beautiful record. Orbison giving some delightful delivery. I'd really only known him from that debut Traveling Mulberries records, but I really got to check out more of his stuff because I think that he is a real talent. And then, of course, Freewheeling Bob Dylan, possibly my favorite Bob Dylan record. I think that this is just an incredibly well put together album in a year of sort of not great albums, admittedly speaking. It really stands at the top for just having a brilliant feel to it and just being loaded with absolutely spectacular songs. And I think that these are some of Bob's best vocals. I know some people struggle with Bob Dylan's voice. I've always personally loved it. And I actually find myself more drawn to that than the arrangements a lot of the time. But I find the acoustic guitar on this record is just really beautiful. So much great stuff on that record, and it easily kind of takes this year. My lone 4.5 star in a sea of 4s. So, Freewill and Bob Dylan, consensus winner for 1963.
I definitely wouldn't count on us sharing a top 2 for most of the rest of it. But
No,
good, we got it once.
that is not happening again. I can guarantee you that. That being said, though, any closing remarks on 63? I think you like jazz, you'll like this year is kind of where I'll put it.
Yeah, there's a lot of acclaimed jazz records. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it reaches the heights for me of the ones to come still, but you know, definitely these ones here really great, and I'm glad that I had the chance to discover.
Absolutely. That being said, though, that was 1963. And yeah, really hope that you enjoyed that. Stay tuned next week for 64 and so on and so forth. You have a great one.